What up, fam? We're live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Guys, like and share this feed. Going to talk about some really good topics today with my girl Natalie Lee Martin. She is logging in as well. So, guys, like and share this feed on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whichever way you're watching us today. I think we're probably at
Hey.
I don't know what week we at. This might be week number 20. But I'm excited to be live with you guys today. So, guys, like and share this feed. It's Boss Talk Wednesday, and we're coming to you another week.
I know I need
Just
to go
talking
back
about
and
some
look
really
at
stuff.
it.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we on live.
Yeah.
So, what's up, everybody? All right, guys, like and share this feed. It's gonna be a really good talk today. I'm so excited because we've been consistent for this since March, or was it April?
I think it was April.
Oh yeah, because you were up here the first week. So it's the second week of April. We've been
Mm-hmm.
going live consistently every single week. And the thing about consistency is like once you start being consistent, it becomes such a groove that
Mm-hmm.
you look forward to it. Like even sometimes we don't always feel like going live. But the thing about it is this is where we come together and collab as entrepreneurs just to talk about issues that we're really going through that they're real issues. But
Yes, they
now
are.
we find out how to get results from the issues and how to really grow as entrepreneurs because sometimes I feel like you have no one to talk to as an entrepreneur. But I'm thankful that I've been able to surround myself around an amazing group of people who are one, they're dope in their craft. They're fun to be around, and it's cool when you can really just relax around your friends and you don't feel judged as an entrepreneur for like you've missed the mark, but you realize that your friend is thinking about the same thing you're thinking about, as we talked about
Mm-hmm.
before we got on live. So, Natalie, how was your week so far? What are some of the triumphs you had, and what's one thing you had to work on this week?
Oh man, what's the triumphs? I don't know. I'm still here. I'm still doing it. I'm still an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. I didn't quit. That's a triumph.
Yes,
Um,
listen, that part.
and you know what I mean? And that's that was the trying part as well. This week it was like you know what? I could just go back. The kids going back to school. I could just go back to corporate. We could just do this thing. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
why are we still out here promoting services, marketing? Um, but I did take this week off. So I'm not like on Clubhouse. Usually I'm on Clubhouse all week. This week I took a break. This week and next week, I took a break to just kind of get a strategy for my social media. So
Good.
I have been posting. Let me say a triumph. What's wrong with me? I got over 30,000 views on one of my reels and I
Dope.
think 17,000 on the other one. I'm like, okay, sis, you out here now. I got about 50 new followers in one day. And I was like,
Dope.
wow, that's just so new for me. So that gave me a little bit more of momentum to say, you know what, this thing is actually working. People are actually gravitating to what you have. Keep
Mhm.
going, sis. So that was a triumph in the whole part of everything.
What I love, and I'm glad we did started with that question, is because sometimes we're so boggled down by what's not going right that we
Yes, you're
forget to
right.
praise ourselves for what we got going on. I was listening to
So right.
Six Figure Spot Chick the other day on her live, and she said, "When's the last time you congratulated yourself for something for your business?" Because sometimes, like for example, I've gotten a lot of awards in the last couple of years before, like COVID, for what I did for
Mhm.
mentoring. But it feels so different because like I've been out the classroom and I haven't really had my mentees like I used to have, and it's like when you have to learn how to redefine yourself, it looks like how do you redefine yourself without feeling like you lost who you were, you're trying to rediscover yourself.
Yes.
And I realized too, sometimes you have to award yourself for the little things. And the more you start to award yourself, the more you start to grow and be proud of different things. And as an entrepreneur, you have to celebrate yourself in the little things because if you don't, you start to feel lost. You start to feel like you're not good enough. You start to feel that, like, why am I doing this? And it's been like that this summer a few times. Like, well, why am I like what you love? You know that you love what you do, right? It's not. I would never say
Mhm.
I love what I do, but sometimes you have to remind yourself of that love. It's just like a relationship. When you're in a relationship, sometimes you guys have to remind yourself of the love, remind yourself of why you're together. That same thing goes into business. You have to remind yourself, well, why did I become an entrepreneur in the first place? what was my why, and
Mm-hmm.
one of my really cool people, Azareas from Blondery, I'm so proud of her. And we was having this conversation last week, and she was saying that, I had to go back to rewriting my vision board down and my vision
Mm-hmm.
statements and affirmations around because we're so in the thick of things all the time that sometimes we don't just stop and just really reflect and really to start take time to think about why did I become an entrepreneur, why did I do this, why did I do this. And when you rediscover your why, it's like you're rediscovering your love all over again. So I think that's so dope that you took time to say, oh, I did have triumphs. So my triumphs this week is I officially put out the Boss Up Bootcamp flyer. So now we can start selling tickets. um, and honestly, when you plan an event, it can be very, very challenging because you want everything to be perfect. And I love the fact that my friends are so graceful towards me that they're always on board. Like, all right, Jay, what we doing? And sometimes it's hard because when you start to find your tribe, you start to realize how there are so many people who are like you and who enjoy being around you as an entrepreneur. So what I realized is
Mm-hmm.
the more I continue to work, the more I start to discover who's in my tribe. One thing that I had to work on this week uh, was actually making time to plan my content, like we had spoke about. Like yesterday, I just made 5 reels, and then I'm like, okay, Jay, you got to be better at getting your products out on time. So I made a product schedule. So I make it on my schedules because I am thinking about going back to work for this next school year because I miss teaching. I really do. I miss teaching. I miss the camaraderie, and I really miss making an impact. Because all my mentees, they're old, so it's like I need some
Not they
fresh
old.
ones. Yeah, they old. And it's like they're old, and also they're just like they're kind of getting stuck in their ways. So it's like I need to impact more kids because there's so many people who need what I have and I need what they have because we work together to build each other up. So those are my triumphs and my things I had to really kind of come to realization with.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Now, let me just say, hey, all the Boss Up fam, welcome to the live. As Chef J said before, this is our 5th month. We've been doing this since
Yeah,
April. Every single Wednesday, we have not missed a Wednesday. Isn't that crazy? We have not missed a
yeah,
Wednesday. And the momentum that we have built, it's like, oh yeah, we know we're gonna do this every Wednesday. It's
yeah,
already built into the schedule. There's no like, oh, you're
yeah.
not gonna do it. You gotta be like sick, because he's been out of the country. He's been out of the
And we still been
country.
live.
I feel
Listen,
like
still been live.
yes, I feel like if you went to the hospital, you would do Boss Up in the hospital. Like, y'all,
Listen, plug
I'm
me
in the
up. Let me
bed
get
right
my
now, but
stands
give me
up.
a second.
Listen, I'll be right on live.
You were right.
Be right on
Like, you
live,
had to
having
push
it attached to
through.
the bed.
You gotta push through. You gotta be committed. And we're
Yeah,
not making light of that. Self-care is so important. We understand all that other good stuff, but there's something about gaining that momentum that keeps pushing
yeah,
you forward, and you're like, it feels so much easier now than it did in the beginning. But we got to talk about you wanting to go back to work and you deciding like, yo, you got to give us the backstory and all of that. Come
yeah.
on.
Oh, so that's cool. So let's talk about this part. My really
Yes.
good friend Crystal she came to the Boss Up Boot Camp and she was talking about going back to work.
Hmm.
And the thing about going back to work is, as an entrepreneur, going back to work can look different ways, right? It's also about running the play. So the good thing about what I do in education, I love teaching. So I've always
Hmm.
loved what I did, right? The only problem that I had with teaching was I don't feel like the support system is there for creative arts teachers. So, for example, there's my friends who teach culinary, dance, sewing. It's kind of like they throw kids in our class, which I'm okay with that because they're meant to be in my class, right? But the thing about it is sometimes when you don't get support or sometimes you find out that the administrator that you have, they have no knowledge of what you do. So
Hmm.
opposed to instead of working with you, they try to be a boss instead of a support system. And sometimes it's really challenging as an entrepreneur because I'm like, I love what I do with teaching. I got a track record. You can Google what I do. So it's like, when you're working with someone who doesn't know what you do, it's like you can feel closed in. So I'm going to with the open mind with teaching again is because I love teaching, and I think I'm also being more strategic about how I use my resources. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, is a few goals that I have with education this year is to one, um, not use any money I make from school and just use that towards investments. So one investment I want to do definitely this year is Toro and Airbnb. So the funds I get from teaching, I can use it towards Toro Airbnb, and I plan to strictly live off my business. So for example, is I know that my bills come up to maybe like 4,500 a month. So what I'll do is I'll have, because in entrepreneurship is expensive. So I'm gonna just use the money I make from my business to pay my main bills and to do some investment. But everything I make from the school will go right towards me if I go back. Would be towards investment. So Toro, Airbnb, because what happens as entrepreneurs, I'm a jumper, and I always jump with a plan. So this time going back forward is I want
Mm-hmm.
when you jump as an entrepreneur, you want to jump off and have resources that you don't have to work hard for. So Toro, Airbnb, stuff like that, that's easier money that's coming to you. Definitely also going to work back into my crypto portfolio. So these are things that I'm working on doing as I'm thinking about going back into, my job force. So going into, it's nothing wrong with going back to work as an entrepreneur. It's nothing wrong with it. Because what happens is if you learn how to balance yourself, if you learn how to not take work personal, if you learn certain key things at a job, you'll learn how to balance your business better. But if you don't create that balance in your life, it's going to be hard. So for me, like I love what I do, but I know I get really engulfed in work. So when I first started teaching, my first 6 years of teaching, like I was all in. But I realized my business was kind of on the back burner. But then the last school I taught in, it's not that I wasn't all in. It's just that I realized that, hey, Jay, you got to separate work from business
Mm-hmm.
because you'll end up burning yourself out. And I've done it in the past. So I've ended up in the hospital one time because I burned myself out so much.
Wow.
So now I've learned how to really create my limits. So now going back in, I'm going in with a plan that's strategic where I can still give my students the best while still also give my business the best. And my program works hand in hand because I give kids jobs. So yeah, I do miss, like, I have a team of like five now. Before I had a team about like 30 mentees where I can
Wow.
rotate and we were popping out gigs. But now it's like I'm thinking about, okay, if I do go back to work as an entrepreneur, what's your plan? What's the plan of this? Because you love what you do, but how do you balance the things that you love so they all get the best of you? So that's where I'm at when it comes to like education, just being smart and being strategic about what I want to do and how I want to do it.
I love that you're taking the time to be strategic and taking the time to create a plan. And you said it's still a if, but even in your if, you're creating a plan and a framework. So when you go back, that you won't be burnt out on one end or burning the candles on both ends. You'll have the best of both worlds. And that's
Mm-hmm.
having that balance in between. That's really, really good. And I love that you were talking about basically going back to work and looking at it differently, because for those of us that are still well, not me or you, but for those that are on this live, if you're still in corporate, or you're still on your 9 to 5 job, now you get an opportunity to see it through our lens. The people that have left, that look at it as your
Mm-hmm.
capital. The way that you were
Yeah.
describing your job, you looked at it as capital. This is capital that I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting, not just to live and pay my bills, but to reinvest back into my business.
Yeah.
And a lot for me, for a long time, I didn't look at my job as the capital for my business. I looked at
Mm-hmm.
it as the thing that was holding me back from pursuing entrepreneurship to its fullest. And so when I left, I did have a little bit of plan. I did have some my business account. I put some money in my business account and in my
Mm-hmm.
but I spent it so frivolously that I didn't think about, like, it was not going to be
Yeah.
replenished. Before, when I had the 9 to 5 and I was able to just transfer funds into it, I was like, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. I got the money to try this and try that. It don't work, try something else. But when you don't have that cushion or that 9 to 5 or that income that's funding your
Yeah.
business, now you have to be a lot more strategic. And I love the fact that you're starting off with a strategy instead of being thrown into this thing because I don't got no money or I ain't da 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 da, because that's what we do. I mean, I was thinking
Yeah.
about going back to work too. I'm like, I ain't got the influx of clients like I want to have.
Yeah.
So How did I fund it before? I should go back and fund it that way.
Mhm.
But there was nothing strategic about me going
Yeah.
back. It was just like, I don't feel like
But you know,
I'm getting
another
what I
good point
need.
about that part, a good part about that is when you start thinking about so the reason why I never mind going back to education is because
Hmm.
it's also opportunity there. What I mean by that is as a coach, I got
Yes,
my practice from mentoring kids.
exactly.
The other part about it is too is the reason why I never get upset when God brings me to a certain place where I feel like I shouldn't be there
Hmm.
is because there are people who you're meant to meet by being at the right place at the right time. So, for example, is one of my really good friends now. I met her at my last school, and I'm like, God, and I met this
That's
one
good.
kid there too, and I'm like, God, what if you brought me there just to meet those two
That's
individuals?
good. That's good.
What if you haven't worked there for that short period of time just to meet those? Like, there are certain places that God places us where we have to be mindful of our attitude. We have to be
Hmm.
mindful of also too our perception because sometimes we're at places where God tells us to go, and we feel like no, He didn't tell us to do that, and it's just like no, He did.
Hmm.
So when you really start to manage your emotions and then manage like the energy you put out, because energy is very very real. When you manage your emotions, you and your energy, people who because remember the Bible talks about we're the salt and light of the earth, right? So we're the salt
Hmm.
and light of the earth. That means that we bring flavor and we also draw people to us. So
Hmm.
naturally, when you're operating your gifts and your talents, you're going to bring people into your space that want to be around you just because it's you. So when they come around you, it's so important to realize that what energy am I putting out towards people who are assigned to my destiny?
Yeah.
Because there's some people who are assigned to you whereby you being around them, you'll help draw them to your light to help them elevate. And sometimes when you feel like, well, I don't want to go back to work or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this exposure event. Sometimes it's like when you are in the right space at the right time, you'll meet the right people to elevate you or the people you're supposed to elevate. So I learned to, Josh, no matter how you feel about a situation, you have to be so careful of what you put out because there are people you're assigned to, and because you're in your feelings about why you're at a certain place in life where you feel like, man, I still didn't reach that goal, I still didn't do this. When it's just like God is like, wait, chill. I may don't want you to reach this right now because I want you to be right here to be
Yeah.
effective with the person you're supposed to be around. Because if you're always so I need to be on my GPS direction, and you're not even including God in your plans because He says in Jeremiah, "For I know the plans and thoughts I have
Have
towards you."
towards you. Come
So when you
on.
start to realize that, no, God has you on His mind before the foundation of the earth, that when you feel like you're mad about going back to work, He's like, no, I want you to get this place because there's a dry place right here. And because you're here, remember, because we're supposed to be like a tree planted by rivers of living water. So wherever you plant yourself, the rivers of you, and you'll bring new life into a place because you're obedient when God placed you somewhere, and you're not mad at why I had to go back to work, why I had to be here, why. Stop asking why, and just really enjoy the process because you'll see that there's so many other gems you'll get. There's so many nuggets you get by just being obedient to the call and the direction because you realize later on, like, I was supposed to be here in the first place.
That's so true. That is
Yeah.
so true. That
So
happened to
that's
me
where I'm
back in
at.
I love that. I love that you have that outlook because that happened to me back in, I think it was 2018, 2019. I
Hmm.
left the classroom and I was like, all right, God, I'm ready to do this entrepreneur thing. And went through this whole, I didn't know that God was going to be like, all right, you ready to do this entrepreneur thing? Let's get some deliverance. And there was so
That
much
part.
stuff that God was working out in me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be building a business. And God was like, oh, you need to build yourself first. You got some stuff.
Hmm.
And then I was like, all right, when I felt like, okay, I'm in a place where God is like, all right, you good. I was like, all right, so what do we do? How do we start this business? And he was like, go back to the classroom. I was like, go back to the classroom. You just told me to leave the classroom. I just left. And he like, no, go back to the classroom. So I had to go back to the classroom for that entire year. And God was really telling me, like, you need to be developed because you had not conquered the space yet. I used to go into the
Hmm.
classroom and I used to be upset. And I used to be like, I just want to leave this. They just doing this to me. And these administrators don't know what they're talking about. And that last year, when I went back into the physical classroom, I was different. I knew that it was an assignment. I knew that I was there to help the kids. I knew I was there to help the teachers. So it was the same circumstances, but because I saw it differently, because I was positioned differently, I was
Yeah.
able to receive a whole lot more. And that was the first time somebody called me a coach. I remember being in the classroom, and I have my inclusion classroom. So now my inclusion class is a class where you have students that are, either on the spectrum, special education students, and we're supposed to have
Mm-hmm.
two teachers. I ain't had no two teachers. It was just me by myself. And I'm in there doing the
Listen.
best that I can with these kids. And I had one kid and he would be like, "Put me in, coach. Put me in." Every time he wanted to answer a question, he would be like, "Coach, I'm right here. Put me in." And they started calling me Coach Natalie.
Yeah.
So it was even in the classroom that they started Coach Martin, actually, not Coach Natalie. They would not dare call me by my first name, but they started calling me Coach Martin, and there was something in me that was like, "Yo." I had heard about life coaching, and I was like, maybe I need to tap into that, because I had
Mm-hmm.
been doing it in the class so long, and I didn't even realize that that was
That's what
where
you was
it
doing.
began. That's where God
Yeah.
was like developing me to come out into entrepreneurship and be a coach, but He had to send me back into the classroom. So I love
It's
that you
good.
had that perspective. But honestly, I don't think I could go back today. I don't know. I'm not. I would go drive Uber because
And I be doing it. And I ain't listen. I drive Lyft all the time. When I got a bill, I have a quota. I will put. But I met some
listen.
dope, amazing people this morning actually driving. Like, I just think that too is I never get mad about what I have to do. My mom said to me one time, she was like, "One thing about you, you gonna make a way out of no way with it." I said, "Yeah," because one thing, I don't like being broke, first off, and two, I like living a certain lifestyle. So I will hustle if I need to. I'm not afraid to hustle. Do
Hmm.
I want to? No, but I'm not afraid to do what I have to do to make sure I'm living the life I want to live. So I think that's the biggest part about it too. Is just like, do you want to go with ego or do you want to go with
Ooh,
achieving those goals? Because
come
ego
on.
will keep you stuck thinking that
Yes,
this is, and sometimes too is the reason why you're meant to go back to certain places is because the way you're doing business ain't right.
exactly.
Where it's just like, yeah, you got the right concept, but the way you're doing it is not the right way. So listen, be okay to get wisdom,
Yeah,
and be okay with getting wisdom, because sometimes I realize too, as I'm in certain different places, I'm like, okay, God, like I see what you was doing there. Okay, now this makes
yeah.
sense. Okay, I see what this is doing. Okay, so let me reevaluate that. And I think
That's so good.
the best way to really kind of have a successful business is to journal,
Yeah.
because when you start to journal, you start to identify, like, I love, like, journaling to me is like Facebook memories,
Yes.
where when I used to write long posts about what I'm believing God for, like what because I believe other people need to hear what I have to say, right? So I would see different posts, and I'm like, wow, that was 12 years I wrote that, and that ministered to me today,
Hmm.
because or you'll realize that the same thing you're going through, other people are going through. So it's like when you start to really journal and document the process, and you go back and read over it, you're like, wow, like this is how I felt then, but that's all I knew then. So I feel this way now, but what knowledge do I have now to change quickly? So now the information I knew years ago versus now. So let's say, for example, I feel like the enemy never brings new tricks. He always does the same thing over and over again, right?
Hmm.
So whatever your vice is, you're probably still doing with that vice, but different levels of it. So the good part
Hmm.
about it is now when I have certain feelings, I'm like, okay, I accomplished it last time, but now what steps do I want to put into
That's
place
good.
now to really kind of accomplish those goals and really tackle the issues that I might be going through, to really get success.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. And as you were talking about going back and tackling those issues and now being able to see it from a different light, I think about in education where we do reteaching and retesting. And I was
Yes.
talking about that to somebody today. And I was like, there was a time in education where it wasn't like a big thing to reteach and retest. You failed, you failed. That's it, boo boo. You got
Yeah.
that grade. But there was a shift that came, and I think in the like 2008, 2007, where
Hmm.
it started getting really big, where if the kids would fail because of that No Child Left Behind Act, now we had to
Yeah.
place some systems in place to make sure that they pass, but that it was authentic. Like they weren't just being passed because they got this law out here, so let's just make sure everybody get a 70.
Hmm.
They had this reteach retesting thing, and it's where you fail the test, but you went to reteach. So you would go after school. For my students, we would take them after school. They actually had to fill out a form, have their parents sign it in order to get that access to it. Then they would come after school and we would reteach, but in a different way. Sometimes it was a different teacher because of the way the information was presented. They probably couldn't
Yeah,
get it. So they went with a different teacher, but we had to use different methods in order to reteach
and that's good.
the
Yeah.
thing. And then they were able to retest. Now, the test was not exactly the same. It was a different
Hmm.
test with the same concepts. And as you
Hmm.
were talking, that came back to my mind. Like a lot of us are, we become entrepreneurs. We dove into this, but now God is saying, go back to corporate because you didn't understand beforehand what all of this meant. And so as you go back in with a different lens, you're seeing things differently. And the
Hmm.
systems that were put in place that you thought were there to harm you or there
Hmm.
to stifle your creativity, now you're starting to understand this is for a reason. These systems and these processes help the business run better. So
Yeah.
you're going back just to gain a little bit more. You're in another class. You're in a reteach, retesting class. It
Yeah.
looks differently because now you're doing it
That's good.
hybrid. You're actually working while in your business, while you're working in somebody else's business to bring that alignment that you don't have, and the information, the practical knowledge and the practical wisdom that you don't have doing it by yourself. God could be bringing you to a place of acceleration, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, dang, you sent me back into the workforce and now I'm ashamed. Like you said, you want to build, you want your ego and you want to have a booming business. You can't have both. You're gonna have to
No.
let one go. Either you're gonna have your ego and look good, or you're gonna have a thriving business.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point that you made about that too. And I think the key part about it is if you're an entrepreneur now and you think about going back to work, go. It's not saying you're a
He said,
failure.
go.
It's just saying,
Don't even think about
yeah,
it. Go.
go. Like no, don't ever struggle when you don't have to. But make it make sense. Like for example
Make it
is
make sense.
like the only two jobs I saw me ever going back to, or actually going to, was working at the airport because I like to fly and I can see the world on their
I
dime
like
and
that.
educate. Those are the only two jobs that ever make sense for me going. But the thing about it too is I think a lot of times too is people just take, like, let's say if you are thinking about going back to workforce, think of a job that will help you elevate your business. So for example
Yes,
is, let's say if I want to really get better at social media, find a tech company to work at, or find a company
that's so
that
good.
is, like for example is, there's a company in New York called I can't think of the name of it, but they give out courses on social media. They give courses out on like how to do Photoshop. I would try to be a
Mhm.
receptionist there because they offer free classes.
That makes sense.
Like
Yeah.
stuff like that makes sense because you can make it make sense. Like for example, is if I want to learn something or if I want to be better at what I'm doing, I'll find a job where I'm going to be learning something which makes sense. Like even to, for example, is I would try to find a university job so I can go back to school for business, right? Because you get to go to
That's
school for free
good.
if you work at a college. So if you're thinking about going back to work, or if you want to find a job that's closer to your field, because like people talk about seven streams of income, and they got seven crazy different businesses that don't make sense. And it's just like as an entrepreneur, find things that make sense for you to learn or to still grow in your passion. So this way make it make sense. So like if you need to go back to work, find a job where you're gonna learn. I think people just find any random job. And it's like, now if you gotta
Yeah.
do what you gotta do, because sometimes you do. But if you have an opportunity to go back to work, make it make sense where it's a job that can help you grow in the area you want to learn at. And I'm like, a university would be a great job because they always hire somewhere, especially if you're in New Jersey. It's so many universities. So find a job as a
Mhm.
receptionist, find out, or find a job where you can go to school. Like even Starbucks pay for you to go to school. Like, and people look at, I don't want to work at Starbucks. Like people look at that like they don't want to do something like that. But it makes sense because now you get to meet people that naturally wouldn't know you. You probably see 500 people a day that you would meet
That
that you
is
wouldn't
so
meet by
good.
being at home doing your business. Secondly, I'll be able to, and that's the truth. Star just said it. Find a job that pay your student
That's a
loan,
true
but that
star.
makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Like find out the benefits of a job, so when you're going back, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Don't go back to work just because you got to pay a bill. Make all the resources make sense. Like, why am I going
Yeah.
back? What benefits will it benefit me? Who will I meet? And also, too, is
Who will I
speak
meet?
who you want to meet. I say every day, people who are looking to elevate me are looking for me every single day. People who are destined to help me elevate my future, and people who are assigned to me to help me elevate them. Let me see them every single day. Let me every day be intentional about my words. So, and
Mm-hmm.
as I'm going to a place where I might not want to go, I'm creating an atmosphere that expectation is at a place where I don't want to always go. For example, this Abraham didn't want to leave his family, but he knew that when he got to that place, there was an expectation of what he was going to receive if he went there.
Yeah,
But it's about being obedient, you know?
it is. This is so good. I was thinking while you were talking about just like, because you said make it make sense. That stuck with me. And it really does. You really need to think about like the intricate parts of your business. Like if your business sucks at customer service, maybe you should go get a job in customer service to see, what makes what I mean? Like AT&T, no shade to AT&T. I got AT&T, but their customer service is not the best.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, T-Mobile, their customer service is amazing. And it's just
Yeah.
like sometimes from the outside looking in, you're not able to evaluate why it's so good that if you got to work in the company, you will start to see, oh, this is what's wrong. This is where they're having the miscommunication, or this is where some things are
Mhm.
broken. Because even studying it, even going back to school, like with me, and Star is one of my business besties where we'll bounce ideas off of each other. We've been learning so much about business. It's only when you get to a place where you have to actually apply the information that you learn
Yeah.
that you find yourself in a place of wrestling and trying to understand, why did the coach tell me to do this in the first place? Why is this supposed to make sense? What's up
Yeah,
with
that's
the
good.
freebies? Like something simple as putting out your freebies. When I first came into coaching, they're like, put out the freebies, 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 all this stuff about freebies, but there was no depth to it. It was just like, this is what
Yeah.
people like. This is what you should do. They're going to click on it. And this is the beginning of your funnel. But there was no understanding to it. And because there was no understanding and no depth and no power, I didn't see the freebie as what it was. But going through the
Mhm.
process, having to do it, watching the freebies fail, putting out new ones, seeing other people's, like all of that made it make sense to me. Now, if you're
Mhm.
working in a company and they're doing all of those things, we go back to customer service, you're getting to walk through those steps with the company now
Yeah,
that you
that's
have a
good.
different lens. And you said that to me earlier, because I told Josh, I said, I can't go back because it's going to take away everything from me. I'm the type of person, if I go
And
in
it feels that way.
you got me. Like you got 100%. I'm gonna make your company look phenomenal because that's just who I am. And he's like, no, but you're gonna be different because of what you see, the systems that you've implemented, how
Mhm.
everything is organized now. You're going to be different. And it really does have to do with the lens, your perspective, how you
Yeah.
see where you're going. If you see it as an obstacle, it's going to be an obstacle. If you see it as an opportunity, it's going to be an opportunity, because now how you see it determines what you will see in it. And I'll leave it there.
And and that's the key part about it, because it's just like vision. This is why clarity and purpose is so important.
Yes, it
When you
is.
want to identify when you first have clarity. And I actually just launched this e-course a couple weeks ago about the 3 steps
Come
to
on,
discovering your
e-course.
purpose. Listen, check it out because it's really good. The first
It
step
is.
is to declutter your mind. That's the first step. Second step is to tap into your gifts. See what are you good at, and then the last thing is to actually apply your gifts to understand your purpose. Because the thing about it is, when you get so cluttered about stuff, and the reason why I said that to you earlier about if you go back to work, you're a different person, because the Natalie that went to work last time is not the same Natalie that's going to work now.
Mhm.
You're such a qualified. You have qualified yourself as a coach because
Come on.
you took
Thank you,
time to
sir.
study, you took time to revamp. So now, and I think too is just like that's like for example, people be like, "Oh, nobody ever changes." No, people do change. So
Yes, they
the
do.
version you met maybe 5 years ago is not the same Josh you met now.
Nope.
So like it's the perfect example is like my mom when I was younger was Toro. I mean Zorro. You know how Zorro with the Z.
Yes,
That's
yes,
how she
yes.
was with. That's how she was with discipline. And my sister, where she
Mhm.
was quick with those hands, but as so, like for example, like she was quicker with my sister, but me, she got a little slowed down because
Yeah.
my mom, my sister and I are 10 years apart. So the whoopings that my sister got is not what I got because I knew how to really kind of not manipulate the system, I knew
Yeah, you
how to
do.
really kind of to slow her down some. So this way, by the time my mom, she popped faster back then, but I got older. Like my mom learned how to develop as
Yes.
a parent. Where, hey,
Yes.
you know what? Sometimes I got to talk to you, and
Yeah.
so. But now it's so funny too because when my niece and my nephew say stuff, she is like she's such a grandma. How grandmas are just the
Hmm.
sweetest people. But when you remember when
Yes.
you was a kid, it's just like, wait, I would have got a whooping for that. But when you look about that, it's just like you can't expect the same results for somebody that's grown as an
Yeah.
individual where
Agreed.
you learn how to talk things out more, and it's just so interesting because it's just like you learn how to be a growing individual. I don't say a better
Yeah.
person because not that you was bad before, but you're growing as an individual. So I think too is people feel like you stop growing when you're
Mm,
18 or when you're in college and they expect you to be an adult when it's like, no, I'm still growing as a person.
yes.
So when you're
Yes.
growing as a person, you start to get different results. So if I'm going back into the workforce now, you're getting a better version. Now you're getting a developed version of Josh, where
Yeah.
before,
That's
you
good.
know, I back in the day I wouldn't let you slide with saying some crazy stuff, but now I'm like, let me realize what I got to learn in the situation
That's
and
good.
how to create better relationships with people in the workforce because now, because before I'd be like, I am still like I'm out, but now it's like okay, maybe I don't need to leave like this or leave so soon, but let me just find better ways to work with people and to not allow the energy that they create to kind of mess up my stratosphere of happiness and joy because some people will try it in the workforce because they hate their life. I mean, I hate my life, so leave that energy over there. So as an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, how do I still go back to work to create a plan, but to allow my mindset to still be ever growing and not become stagnant? Because think about education, a lot of teachers hate their job. They're there for a
Yes.
check. And a lot
I
of
love that you
companies,
say that.
yeah, a lot of companies,
Keep
you
it
go into
100.
there, they hate their job and they envy the fact that you're happy. They envy the fact that you got a name outside of the school building. I had one vice
Yes.
principal in my last school where it was just like this is his height of being a vice principal. Like this is where he's going to retire at.
Wow.
There's nothing wrong with that, but for me, it's like, bro, like my goal is pulling in. I'm seeing a world. So it's like even too when people who are stagnant in jobs, when you think about going back to work, this is the highest level of success for them. And then you come in being so dope as you are, so dynamic as you are, and so you're operating at the place of, hey, this is an opportunity for me to grow at this job. So let's not get things twisted, fam. I know you're at your plateau, you're at the place of your height of your career, but that's not me. So I've learned how to appreciate people for where they are in life, but that does not mean that they have to deter what I have going on because they're not happy with their life. Like, fam, like that's where your
Mhm.
plateau is. Don't try to bring that energy over here because I have a strong force field and you might get your feelings hurt when you try to deter me because I know who I am, while you might not know who you are.
That's so good. I love that you talk about they have that plateau, like that's the height. And for
Yeah.
many people in the in corporate, not everybody, because there's different things and situations. I remember I think I was talking to Star and I was like, she was like, no girl, you ain't going back because she was like, you too far gone. And she was like, think about it like this. There is no cap on your salary as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur. You can
Mm-hmm.
make as much as you can sell. When you go back in the classroom, it's a cap. And I think my son said that to me years ago. He was like, well, in the classroom you can make, he was like, what's the most you can make as a teacher? I said, I think probably like 120,000 depending on
Mm-hmm.
where you are. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but you can make $1 million as an entrepreneur. This is no brainer. And I was just
Yeah.
like, you know what? For real, the possibility is so much
Yeah.
more endless when it comes to um being an entrepreneur. Your vision, your dreams have an ability to breathe, so to speak, to
Mm-hmm.
grow and to expand beyond the borders in which corporate can sometimes box you into. And that's what people envy. People do envy the fact that you have the freedom, again, to own your own time, to position
Yeah.
yourself, to put those things in place. However, you do have to understand, I loved how you talk about the balance. There is a balance to it because there is security when it comes to corporate. There's security when it comes to
Mm.
going back into the classroom. And so you have
No, there's a steady paycheck. There's not security. Let's
Well,
change that word.
well, okay, I'm glad
Let's
you said
change
it like
that
that.
word.
But they
They
see the
promote.
steady paycheck as security
Yeah.
in their mind. And
Yes,
it's
and the
again,
pension.
it's what you see. What you
Yes.
see determines what you see. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad that you point that out. And I'm glad that you corrected me because it is a steady paycheck and people see a steady paycheck as security. But my
Mhm.
second year of teaching, I got laid off. They was like, oh, we got this short, whatever. I forgot what it's called. It's a rule that the last one hired has to be the first
Is
one
the last
fired.
one?
And I
Yeah.
got laid
Mhm.
off. And I was like, peace out. I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia, about to go
Yeah.
find a job over there. And I did, but end up having to come back. I mean, they called me like, yo, we said that you were supposed to get laid off, but we didn't lay. So that was crazy. But that's how it be.
Yeah. And honestly, too, is I think what you start to realize is what does security look like to you? That's the first question. What does security look like to you? Because I'm a different situation. Like I started my business when I was 10, and I didn't start working into a corporate job when I was 16, go working at the Hyatt. So I already had 6 years into my business. And people may feel like, oh, you was a kid then. But when you own, it's like the love of a parent, right? When you're a kid, you only know the love. You don't see all the issues that's wrong with your parent because there's such it's such a setup as a big thing. So for me as a kid starting a business, I had that's all I knew was entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything else. So when I went to a job, I'm like, oh, this is ghetto. Like working is ghetto, but it's just like I enjoyed it, but I already knew that like whatever I learned at the Hyatt, I applied it directly to my business. Like the way I cooked chicken before, once I learned it at the Hyatt, I found a whole nother way to do it in my business. So, and even when I like the thing I loved about college was about Johnson and Wells was I had the pleasure and the opportunity for whatever I learned at school to apply it right to my business. Some people don't get a chance to learn to apply what they learned at college to years later. So I had a direct access. So whatever I learned in my culinary class and my accounting class, and me and Halima talked about this the other day, where we learned a lot of great stuff in accounting and other stuff like that. I was able to apply it to when I came home to sell dinners. I didn't think about dinners as me just selling food out my crib. This is a corporation, so I learned how much each scoop of mac and cheese costs. That thing was 94 cents, and then a scoop of collard greens, the serving was about 43 cents. So I learned all of these different prices. So I was able to apply it differently. So now when I went to the workforce, I feel as though if you go back again now as an entrepreneur, you have to go to where the goal amount, like we said earlier, find out if they provide tuition reimbursement. Find out if like how you said earlier, if I'm not good at customer service in my business, let me get a customer service based job so I can learn how to be a better customer service agent and then take those same steps and apply it back to my life. So if you are thinking about going back to work as an entrepreneur, which is not bad at all, think about why am I going back? What opportunity does this job provide me? And what can I really learn and grow from? Because there's certain areas that, like, I know a lot of people, and I'm glad you brought the customer service thing. I know a lot of nasty entrepreneurs who are dope at what they do, but they're nasty individuals, and they wonder why people don't come back because you're nasty. But at least if you go to a job, let's say like Chick-fil-A, if you have bad customer service skills, the best job is to go to Chick-fil-A because the reason why is you want to be at a certain level of excellence that you'll say, okay, this is how my customers feel when I'm nice to them. So whatever you're struggling with, you think about going back to work, find a job that you're struggling in that area. If you suck at technology, like I said earlier, find a job that offers technology classes and try to be a receptionist there so you can get free classes on their program. Like even too is Shopify offer free. Like this is the crazy part about it too is a lot of the services that we use in entrepreneurship, and this is why it's not good to use stuff like Cash App or like Venmo or Cash or Zelle for business. There's nothing wrong with that. Use programs such as a PayPal or GoDaddy or a Shopify because they provide classes for you to take. So now, and most of these classes are free because you pay for the services. They have weekly meetups all the time for GoDaddy and Shopify. So areas I'm struggling at is no reason why you can't be successful. Like when I look at kids of today and my mentees, right? The reason why they aren't successful at certain things when it comes to technology is because they're so used to it. Think about it. We have a whole computer. You can Google. Let's say you got a bump on your left hand. I could be like, oh, let me Google this. Take a picture of it, send it to Google, and they'll tell you what the bump looks like. Like you can literally find out whatever you want to find out in Google. If I want to learn a recipe, I can Google it. If I want to learn where's the best place to visit, Google it. So when it comes to your business and stuff that you're lacking at, think about like, hey, let me use my resources, because sometimes when you use your resources, you'll find out that like the stuff that you really need help with is right in front of you. Like for example, is Halima is excellent at business credit. I've seen her do it. So opposed to like, let me go on my circle and let me Google my circle to see what they know and get help from them first. If I need clarity about something, I'm gonna call Natalie. Hey, Natalie, I'm gonna call my personal Google circle. Natalie, I need help with getting clarity about this issue. Hey, Jay, did you think about this? Did you think about that? You know, if I need advice on, you know, how to even so, as a chef, I still call my old chef like, hey, I need to do a Monty Burr. Like, what's your best way to do this? Or what's your idea? Because sometimes getting someone else's perspectives will help because you don't know everything. And sometimes because it's your baby, you take it so personal. But yeah, maybe you need to go back to work to learn those extra 3 steps that you missed because you went from step 1 to 7, but you missed step 3 to 3. You missed those 3 steps in the middle because you jumped from I'm an entrepreneur now when it's like, nah, this is something you're supposed to get at your job. I love how Tyler Perry talked about it, how he said every job he had helped him in the future. When he worked at the hotel, it showed him how to book his play schedule. So when he had everybody organized, it showed him how to do the best rates and stuff like that too. So no job or no experience has to be a bad experience. Just make it a learning experience. Take what you've learned in this area and elevate yourself. Like stop being so bad. Stop being down on yourself because you feel like I got to go back to work for a couple. What are you about to learn from this opportunity? Who am I going to meet that's going to take my thinking to the next level? Everything is not a step back. Sometimes it's just a sit down to really take notes. So now when I'm back, like when I say like they say coach now put me in the game. Okay, I took my notes in the season by going back what I was one step I was missing. So now I can accelerate because success loves speed. But sometimes you have to pause, go back to a place where you think you don't belong, and now you can elevate. You're on mute. How so much?
Sorry, because my headphones messed up, so I had to like put it on mute. But this is so good. Halima dropped in the chat. Come on, Google your circle. Listen, we trying to be so fancy and go outside of our parameters, and it's like start with the circle first and then move forward. It's like somebody
Yeah.
trying to jump into the ocean from the beach. You gotta walk in it first before you can dive into the deep part. You trying to dive in, you're gonna hit your head right in the sand. Like you ain't going nowhere. Chill a little bit. And that pullback, that step back, a lot of the times, and I'm thinking about it, even when you're doing like a bow and arrow, even when you have a gun, there has to be a pull back before the release goes. Without the pullback, you're not going to accelerate sometimes. And we need to sit there and think about that. Do we want to go at a slow pace? You can, but do you want to accelerate and go faster? If you do, you're going to have to fill in some of those gaps. A lot of
That's
times
true.
there's so many gaps that we have as entrepreneurs, and we don't want to take the time to fill in the gaps. We're all about the I got to make the money right now, I got the bills to pay right now. And that's one thing I would say, instead of moving by desperation, become strategic about going back to work. Don't do it because you desperate, because you're gonna get what desperate people get, and that's a lot of nothing. Okay, you're gonna get more problems. It's gonna come with, you're gonna get money, but that money gonna come with more problems. I had more problems when I was making money in the classroom than I did now that I'm making less money. But that's just the pullback. Don't let that less fool you. It's the pullback to what's gonna happen in the future, because now I have more time to think, dream, and implement. So if you're gonna go back, like Chef J said, have a plan, see it correctly, new perspective. So we're going to give it to you in steps. Get a new perspective when you're going back into the workforce. It's an opportunity. It's not you getting stepped back. Have a plan. Be strategic about what you're going to do. And of course, have a purpose. What's the purpose in you going back into the classroom? You know, we got the purpose coach right here. If you want to find out more about your purpose, click the link in his bio. He has several courses. The man dropped like several courses at one time in one day. And he has opportunity where you can work with him one-on-one because purpose is his thing. That's his superpower. Get into the nitty-gritty of the why you are doing what you're doing. Without a powerful why, you're going to go back to corporate every other year. And that's not the purpose. The purpose is to go back to get the gems that you need so that you can accelerate your business in the next season. And that's all I have for y'all. That's it. I'm done.
And that's good. And so, Natalie also dropped her courses too. So make sure you guys click the link in her bio. And so now we're going to talk about Boss Up because Boss Up Bootcamp is less than 2 months away. And I'm so excited because the thing about Boss Up stands for building opportunities strategically and successfully. I always kind of mess up that word. But Boss Up stands for building opportunities strategically and successfully. And that's what it's all about, creating a strategy to be successful. It's not just creating because you bored out your mind. You want to find ways to create strategy so you can be successful and you can achieve all the goals that you want to achieve. And Boss Up is just not something to do. Like, it's something we're all passionate about because we know that we are creating a circle of success. We're creating a circle where once you hop into our circle, you got everything you need. Because this is the Boss Up circle is one that is linked together by success. So once you jump into the middle of the circle, it's like we want to help you like be able to, how when you have like a party and they're dancing in the middle of the circle, like we want to be able to cheer you on and give you all the success you need by coming into our circle, because we're a group of cheerleaders, we're a group of people who believe in success. We're gonna be about our bags. If you're not, you might not want to be with us. But also, there's gonna be just a dope experience. On Friday night, we're gonna have a gelato after dark mixer hosted by Queen Shani at her spot, and then we're gonna do the coaching sections on. Oh, and then Dr. Jewel's gonna actually be speaking on that Friday night, and then on Saturday we're gonna have a full day of speaking from 12 to 5, and then we have our VIP dinner, which is gonna be super dope. And honestly, like the energy of the room for Boss Up is just so strong. It's a place where if you're looking to really grow your business, you want to be there. If you're looking to really have impact on your life, you want to be there. So it's not nobody trying to beg nobody to come. That's one thing about us. We're gonna have a good time with it without you. So we rather you join us in our excitement because we want to help you grow as an entrepreneur or creative. So whatever you're really working on, I promise you, you're gonna find something there that's going to help you pivot to the next level. And honestly, the price that we're charging is $97 in advance, and then it goes up to I think 145, and then VIP is 149. Like, you're not gonna get no price like this for coaching, period, honestly. And it's a great atmosphere just to be able to really learn and grow. So if you're looking to expand your business, if you're looking to really tap into your purpose, if you're looking to get clarity, if you're looking for funding, if you're looking to grow your crypto portfolio, if you're looking to learn how to really start an effective mentoring program, if you want to look into expand your social media presence, it's somebody for everybody there. So you want to click the link in my bio, go to bossup.today. Natalie clicked it at the bottom, and it's going to be a super dope time. So, fam, I just want to leave you with this. It's okay to go back to work. It's okay to go back to revisit stuff that you need to revisit. It's not a step back. Do not look at it. Oh, and also too, we have a virtual opportunity too. So, but once again, guys, don't look at the steps you missed as failure. Don't look at the test you didn't pass as failure. It's just some things you have to learn. Tests are not meant for you to pass the test. Tests are meant for the overall purpose of why you're taking it. Right? For example, is a course has several tests, right? But the whole goal is to be proficient at an area. When I went to Johnson and Wales, I didn't go to school for intro to baking. I went to school to have an overall degree. So it's okay if I didn't pass it the first time, but take the test again and realize that I meant to take a test, or I meant to take these steps to have an overall success. Because it's okay if you don't, it's okay if you miss the mark. Just go back into it and do it again, because practice makes success. practice makes you proficient in an area. So now you become a master at what you're supposed to do. So that's what we come on live for, to encourage and to help you guys grow. We're growing at the same time. So don't think that we just preach it. We're preaching to the choir right here, because we're learning from these steps too. So you want to click the link in the bio and make sure you come to a Boss Up event, because we're going to have a super dope time. And we're also, we're still going to be launching our Boss Up community. So be look out for that as well too. But have a week full of purpose. Have a week full of strategic planning. Don't worry about what's not going right. Just know that the things that you're meant to do will fall into line perfectly. Just show up every day, get clarity, and get purpose. And we're here if you need us. Click the link in our bio. And that's it, fam. Have a super dope week on purpose.